Hi guys, Nassim here. Welcome to the Social Dynamic Principles module, and here we're going to be discussing the topic of frame control, a secret weapon. Now this is really important, not only just in business but also in life, where you need to be able to control the dynamics of a situation when you're interacting with others, okay? So as you're speaking with others, you need to be able to understand the dynamics of what's happening in front of you, and also not only understand it, but also control it so that it's for your benefit. Okay. Now, this is crucial in business, particularly in sales when you're on the call, but also when you're even messaging a prospect to even lead up to the call. This stuff is super important, but also in life, we don't just interact with people in business, but not in life. We need it in every situation that we're in. So maybe you're going to learn a lot of new things in this module, and we really hope that you'll be able to control the dynamics of a situation that's in front of you after watching this video. So at least you'll be conscious of it. So frame control, let's get straight to it. So time to take control of the frame. In every interaction, there are two roles which are played, alpha and beta. The alpha is the leader, and the alpha is also the authority figure. The betas follow the alpha's lead. To succeed in business, you have to be the alpha. So how does this work in everyday conversation? Well, the alpha is the leader and the betas are the followers. The alpha is the decision maker within an interaction. The betas often face the alpha. This is literally as they're positioned looking at each other. The betas often face the alpha and often look for the alpha's approval. Maybe you'll see this in your group of friends or in your workplace or whatever it might be. The betas will adapt to the plans of the alpha, as generally the alpha takes responsibility of the interaction. When a perceived alpha interacts with another alpha in a conversation, you will see friction and contention. So you'll often see this clash between two types of people that want control of the alpha role within the group. So, and the last point here, often the alpha is the one who provides the most value and has earned the spot of the alpha. So basically, when you're speaking with anybody, quite often, it may not look so at the beginning, but it becomes apparent after a period of time that there's really two roles that people have. It's the alpha role and the beta role. And there'll be one alpha, and the rest, for the most part, are betas. They are adapting to what the alpha wants to do. And you'll learn to see how maybe you've never even reasoned it this way before. Maybe you've just kind of gone into social interactions and you've just not given it a moment's thought. And there's certain behavior going on in front of you that you wasn't even sure what was happening. But now, after watching this video, you will be able to understand. So this is very important that we learn this kind of stuff with regards to what are the characteristics of an alpha and also of a beta and what we can do about it. So just as we're discussing the alpha role here, let's get some things straight. Being the alpha doesn't mean that you become a gorilla screaming, shouting, and intimidating everybody. Okay? It just means that you're in control of the situation and you do not allow others to dictate your situation without your approval. So that point, that's very important. Okay, so you see this monkey on the side here. It's not like that. Maybe you've seen action movies or typical stereotypes of what the alpha is. And it's always some person screaming, raising their voice, trying to intimidate others. And that's not what we're talking about here. Okay, so also as an alpha, you will have contenders in an interaction and in life. Yeah, everyone wants to be the alpha. So you will have contenders. That's just the way it goes. And as a leader, you will have all of the pressure, but you'll also have all of the benefits. And that's why people want to assume this role in an interaction. Typically, the alpha is the prize of the situation. They are the prize. And in an interaction, the roles need to be clearly defined. Now, beta characteristics. So we've just analyzed the alpha briefly. Now we're going to talk about what characteristics make up a beta. Now, others are constantly controlling them. That is the beta. They're allowing others to constantly control them. And the beta is always reacting to others. Okay, so the beta doesn't have a plan. They just kind of go into every interaction and in their life while others are basically dictating what they do. So because they're not proactive, they're constantly reacting to what others are basically telling them to do or what they have laid out for them. So that's typically what a beta would do. They're also insecure, and they need others' approval in each situation and need others' permission to do things that they want to do. So quite often, the beta will have ambitions and they'll have things that they want to achieve, goals, but they often need other people to give them permission to do it. Almost as if someone didn't give them, the okay, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, let me know how that goes. And then they feel, okay, I can do this now. But in reality, if they want to do it, they should be able to just go and do it. But they need the validation and the permission of others before they can do what they actually want to do. So that's a typical characteristic of a beta. They also default to wanting others to make their decisions for them. They're also scared of commitment or investing in themselves. So quite often, they literally go around, and to them, they would much prefer having others make all of the decisions for them so that they have zero accountability. Quite often, these people are also scared of commitment as well. So you can also find this in betas that they are very non-committal. Commitment is a part of life, but they want to avoid commitment. It scares them. Perhaps whatever they commit to, it requires a lot of work, or maybe it doesn't work out the way they planned. So all of these things, there's a lot of insecurities wrapped up in the characteristics of a beta. They're also afraid of making decisions because of fear of failure. So quite often they avoid decision making, or they don't tend to be decisive because they fear that they're going to fail. So because of that, they try and avoid making decisions altogether. They constantly present their problems for other people to solve. So we've all got these types of friends that maybe call you up or they text you and they don't know what to do in a particular situation. And they say, hey, what do you think? Basically they're trying to pass the problem solving to you in this situation. And this is what betas do. They're afraid to solve the problem themselves. It's not that they're asking for help. It's that they don't want to take ownership of solving the problem. And this is a typical characteristic of a beta. They also blame others for their problems or their mistakes. So these people are quite often part of a blaming culture. They're always blaming other people for decisions they've made or something that's happened to them in life. They're always blaming other people. And they get into a habit of never taking accountability for their life or for the decisions that they make on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, this is a typical characteristic of a beta, always blaming others. Betas are also afraid of success as well. So they're often the people that have the big dreams, but they never fulfill them. And success actually may even scare them. Maybe the work it takes to reach their goals actually scares them. So maybe they like the idea of thinking that anyone who was successful was lucky, they were lucky, or they were born into money, or they didn't earn the success that they had. And they basically try and position things that way so that basically it's okay. They justify that they haven't reached success, and it's okay because I didn't have the perfect circumstances like all of these other successful people did. So this is a typical characteristic of a beta as well. And they may want to be the alpha, but they don't want to have the responsibilities of the alpha. So quite often, being the alpha comes with responsibility. If you want to be a leader, you need to take all of the pressure and responsibilities of being the leader. And betas want to be an alpha, but they don't want the responsibility. They don't want the pressure. They don't want to do the work that requires of being an alpha in a given situation. So this is another characteristic. And they're also afraid of commitment as well. So there's a lot of insecurities going into being a beta. So we obviously don't want to be this type of person. But Compared with the beta, the alpha characteristics, they have control of the situation. They are secure with themselves in that situation. They do not allow others to control them or the situation unless it's for their benefit. So that's a key point there. The point about it being for their benefit. So, for example, if you are sick, you go to the hospital and you want to speak with a doctor, and you say to the doctor, I have this symptom and this symptom, what do you think? The doctor is the alpha. The doctor needs to be able to take control of that situation. You don't go into the doctor's office and say, hey, I've got this symptom, this is what's wrong with me, you're going to give me this medication at this time, and you're going to do it now. You don't do that. You need to rely on the expertise of the doctor that you do not have. So you allow them to take control because it's for your benefit. So this doesn't mean that you walk around telling everyone what to do. Not at all. You recognize that in this situation, the doctor knows more than you about this particular topic. So you leave it with the doctor because it's for your benefit. So it's not necessarily about always taking action or always doing things. It is just about being in control of the situation and allowing it to take shape for your benefit. Alphas also possess sound decision-making ability. They also lead by example. So they don't walk around telling everyone, I'm the alpha, you're a beta, I'm the alpha. They just lead by example and they do what they do. They're also proactive and not reactive. They provide solutions instead of expecting others to solve their problems. They position themselves as an authority figure in the market in a business context. They don't make excuses, they just solve problems and get the job done. And they're trustworthy and reliable. So we clearly want to be more like this person, don't we? We want to be alphas in business. So what does this have to do with frame control, learning what an alpha is and a beta is? Well, often the betas are not content with remaining a beta and therefore want to dethrone the alpha in a situation to become the alpha themselves. We call this trying to take the frame. Okay, so this is where frame control comes in. We call this trying to take the frame. This requires frame control on the part of the alpha to keep their alpha status in the interaction. As an entrepreneur or a business owner, it is impossible to succeed without being an alpha in every situation. For example, selecting your niche, your service for your businesses, marketing your services, during the entire sales process as well. You need to know and learn frame control throughout the entire business process. You can't succeed in business or reach high levels of success without understanding frame control. This is why you must understand frame control to remain the alpha. So, how will a beta try and take the frame? How does this look like? If you were to analyze a group of friends and a beta was trying to take the frame from the alpha, how would it look like? Well, they may try and raise their voice. They may try and raise their voice over you. They might try and undermine your plans or your character. So let's just think about it as people going on holiday. Let's just say there's a group of friends and they're on holiday together. And they're all deciding what they want to do on holiday. I want to go to this museum, I want to go to this restaurant, or I want to eat here, I want to go to the beach here. Everyone has different plans, okay? When a beta is trying to dethrone the alpha, they may raise their voice over them, they may try and undermine their plans or their character. So they may try and, in that given situation, they may say, yeah, that's very well for you to say, but I want to do this. Maybe the alpha had a plan laid out for them all that they agreed upon before the holiday, and now someone just wants to kind of disrupt all of the plans or blame their character. They may not be open to any agreement, even on obvious points. So, they may all agree, okay, let's go. We all want to eat burgers for dinner, for example, and there may be a burger restaurant, for example, just in front of them. And all of them are looking at the restaurant thinking, yeah, let's go there. But the beta just trying to be a contrarian so that they basically tries to dethrone the alpha. He may throw in something else. He may say, actually, I think maybe there could be a burger restaurant somewhere else. Let's walk somewhere else. So even though he really wants to eat at this particular restaurant, for example, he just tries to say what we say in England, throw a spanner in the works. So basically, try and be a contrarian and mess things up, mess up the plans. So this is how it could look. They may position you as an enemy. This could happen a lot. So in a given situation, they may try and turn others against you in unconscious ways. Maybe they talk bad about you when you're not in the room or whatever it may be. This is all examples of frame control. They will project their insecurities onto you. This happens quite a lot. And they don't care much that you don't succeed. Sorry, that they don't care much that they don't succeed as long as you fail. So this happens a lot. So the person, they don't really care that they may not, they don't care that they don't succeed in a given situation as long as the alpha fails. As long as the alpha fails, it makes them happy. So when you're in social situations, try and look out for this kind of behavior, because this stuff happens all the time. And you may notice it, but you may not be aware of the alpha-beta dynamic. So I want to give you an example of taking the frame. Okay, so I want you to imagine that you're all going, maybe you and your friends, you're going on a road trip somewhere. And you're driving, okay? You know how to drive. You've been driving. You've learned how to drive for years. You have your driver's license. You passed your driver's test many years ago, and you're going somewhere, and everyone sat in their positions in the car. And here you are driving with all of your friends in the car. Everything's going well. You're about to have a good road trip. But there's someone in the back who just is not content with their role in being in the back. In this situation, they don't know how to drive. They don't have a driver's license. They don't really know where they're going. And they're sat in the back, but they're screaming out things like this. You don't know where you're going. No, don't turn left. You should be turning right. The music's too loud, or the music's too quiet. Oh, you're driving too fast. No, actually, you're driving too slow. And they're screaming out all of these unproductive things in the back, okay? It's famously termed being a backseat driver. And this person is trying to take the frame from the driver, okay? But the problem is that the driver, if this person was to allow this person to get into their head, or even if to say, look, you lean forward, this backseat driver, this person in the back here, if he was to say, okay, you lean forward and you take the steering wheel of the car and you drive, you show us where to go. How would that end up? It would be a disaster. No doubt the car would be crashed within minutes. Instead, if the driver asserts himself that you're in the back, shut up and allow me to drive, then they'll get to their destination safe and sound. This backseat driver was trying to take the frame, and the driver in that situation that I just mentioned, they basically kept the frame. They stopped the person in the back trying to take the frame. This happens quite a lot. It's a funny example, but that's a classic example of taking the frame. So what does having the frame look like in a given situation? Well, quite often, the first point, the alpha doesn't move as much as the others. So it doesn't mean that they don't move or they're not enthusiastic and using gestures or whatever it may be. But quite often, the alpha is very comfortable in their position, so they don't need to engage in rapport-seeking body language like all of the others may do. They're quite comfortable just staying still. They don't need to engage in body language that is too rapport-seeking and showing that they're not a threat, or maybe that they're trying to gain rapport with a certain situation. They don't move as much. They're also less jittery in terms of their words that they say in response to others. So that may sound quite weird, but quite often you see someone who has the frame, they don't need to use jittery words in response to people. So they can stay silent. If they've asked someone a question, they can just stay silent and listen to someone speak. But often people that don't have the frame, or maybe they're insecure in their certain situation, they'll have jittery words. Yeah. Okay. Really? I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, really? I can't believe it. They often overreact to things. And when someone has the frame, they typically don't need to do that. They also have control of the situation. So they can be silent when they want to, or they can redirect a conversation to suit their needs. They also understand the interaction for what it is, and they're not lost in it. Okay? So someone who has the frame, they can see the conversation or the social dynamic situation play out before them and understand what's happening. Okay? So it gives an example here of being on a sales call. Now we're about to go into that straight away. Okay? In the next slide. Now, if you have the frame, you can identify when someone is trying to take the frame from you and prevent it. So for example, straight away, the customer asking what the price is, or they're dictating terms. So we're going to discuss these points now in a classic example of frame control. You're on the phone with a potential client, which you would like to make your client by the end of the call. After having a couple of minutes small talk, you then hear the prospect say the following. Right, before we get started, how much is all this going to cost? This prospect is trying to take the frame from you. If you give in and state the price, it's $1,000 or whatever, you've lost the frame and the sale, no matter how much your service actually costs. To take the frame back in this situation, you need to remind the person that this call happens your way or not at all. You would say something like this. Okay, well, how this call will go is I will start off by asking you some questions about your business, and if it sounds like I can help, and if it sounds like we're a good fit, then I'll explain what I have to offer, and any question you would like to ask after that. So you've taken the frame back from this person. And then they realize that to carry on with this call, they need to submit to you being the alpha in the situation, and you've kept the frame. And whenever you do this, you've by far increased the chances of it making it more likely that this prospect becomes a client than if you had just stated the price straight away. Or here's another example of frame control. When you're scheduling a time for a call with a prospect and they constantly refuse your time availability and insist you call at a time that isn't convenient for you. So maybe when you're scheduling a call, you'd say that someone's interested and you say, okay, are you free tomorrow? And they'll say, yeah, I'm free tomorrow. And then you say, okay, you give a range. Maybe you'd say, I'm free from 8 in the morning till 12. So you've given a large period of time there for them to say, yes, I'm free between these times. And they'll say, I'm not free then. And you say, okay then. Well, what about this time? I'm not free then. And then this goes back and forth and back and forth. Basically, most likely they are free. It's not that they legitimately are not free. They've already stated that they're free all day on this day, and they're playing hardball with you. They're not agreeing on your time, and they're wanting you to make the call scheduled on their time. Let's just say you said, I'm busy from 2 till 6. And then they say, okay, I'm free at 4 when you're working. They're basically trying to make you compromise your work schedule for them. They're trying to take the frame. Now, sales calls are made on your time, not the customer's. If they won't even let you schedule the call on your time, forget it. Because, guys, frame control doesn't just begin when you're on a call with a prospect to make the sale, so to speak. It doesn't begin then. It begins the moment you interact with each other. Okay? Prospects who start like this rarely become paying customers, so drop them and save your time. Now, we go through tactics in our proactive outreach and sales modules of how to combat all of these types of different frame control situations. But we're bringing this whole principle to your attention because you need to understand it in its entire context so that you can then apply it in business. Because we can't just tell you something superficial to do and then you're able to do it. It doesn't work that way. We want you to understand it on a deep level. So we've discussed frame control here. Let's discuss some action items that you can do. So identify what your alpha traits are, or more importantly, what your beta traits are. So maybe you've listened to this and maybe you can identify. Don't worry if you've been able to identify with some of the beta characteristics, because the point is that if you don't work on, some people, they have the disposition in their personality to be alphas, but many people have the disposition to be betas. But you can change this. I know many of my characteristics were beta-like, and I've had to work on it and change it, and I was able to do that, and I know that you can too. So if you've been able to identify anything, consciously work to improve this now. So start working on developing your alpha characteristics and perceiving these roles in real time. So from now on, when you're in social situations, try and see what's going on here. Don't just get lost in the conversation. This doesn't mean that you're not present in a conversation. You're just constantly, weirdly analyzing everything, and, people think you look weird because you're not really in the zone in the conversation. But this is just passively, just looking at the conversation and the roles each person has. You can just identify what's happening here. What roles do people play? So try and perceive these roles in real time. Now, we also have a worksheet, Completely Becoming an Alpha worksheet, and I'll show you this now. So we have a worksheet that you can fill in so that you can combat this yourself. So we've taken the time to do this. So now, this is how it starts. Look back over the past 30 days and ask yourself, in what situations did I allow others to make a decision for me? So we've provided some examples where someone picked my meal for me at a restaurant, or they chose where I should go on holiday, or what to do on the weekend. Try and think back to even the last weekend, or the last week, or just the entire month. What situations did I allow others to make a decision for me? And write that down. Once you've written that down, then analyze the next question. In what situations did I blame others for problems in my life? So this isn't just 30 days. This is whatever you can remember. So we've given some examples here. Getting bad grades, relationship problems, family feuds, poor performance at work or in your business. Where did you blame others for your problems? Write that down. Write that down here. Once you've done that, we have the next section. From now onwards, list the following situations where you are going to be proactive and decisive. For example, think about your daily schedule for the next 7 days. Anticipate where you will need to make a decision and commit right now to being decisive in that situation. Particularly, make a commitment to do this in small things with little repercussions, and you'll get used to this in no time. Okay? So think to the next 7 days. Maybe being decisive is a real problem for you. Okay? Well, make a commitment now and think ahead to what situations you're going to be in where you need to make a decision, particularly a small decision, and commit right now to being decisive and being proactive to make this decision yourself. So I mentioned earlier, maybe it's going to a restaurant. Maybe you're going out for drinks this weekend, and someone usually says, I'm going to get this cocktail or this drink or this beer. And then you just kind of say, I'll have that beer too, because you just couldn't be bothered making a decision. Well, whatever it is, no matter how small it is or how big it is, make a commitment now. Write down all of these things that we've asked you to write down so that you can plan in advance. Make this list of the following situations where you're going to be proactive and decisive right now. So once you do this, you get into a habit of being decisive and taking control of a situation. And this stuff is very crucial to becoming an alpha. And quite often, this will become part of your habit. So you'll then start basically destroying these beta habits. You'll be erasing them and taking on these proactive, decisive alpha characteristics. So make sure you fill in this worksheet and you commit to it as well. We've got some examples here. Learn to be decisive, take ownership of a situation, learn when to keep silent or dictate how a situation will play out, especially if someone is demanding your time. Yeah, maybe another classic example of frame control, someone saying you're planned to work and someone says, hey, I'm going to come and see you at this time. They don't realize it, but they're trying to take the frame. So you have to reassert yourself back. So this is a classic example. Look for these scenarios in your life and make sure you commit to now taking the frame now that you can read this stuff. And commit to remaining the alpha in all aspects of life, not just business. Okay guys, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next module.